Hi everyone, this is Amber Patterson, our final week number 5. I chose subject number 1. It is, what is the difference between privately held companies and public companies? What is the government agency that oversees the stock market in the United States? And what is this government agency concerned with? And finally, why is the work of this government agency important? In our textbook, Healthcare Finance, Basic Tools for Non-Financial Managers, Baker & Baker cover the subject in Chapter 19 titled Understanding Investment Terms. On page 231, Baker & Baker define private held companies as small companies with common stock that are not traded. This is known as a privately held company with closely held stock, according to Baker & Baker on page 231. In contrast, public held companies are companies with publicly owned common stock. Privately held companies are not represented on stock exchanges. Large publicly held companies can be found on one of several stock exchanges like the Chicago Stock Exchange, the American Stock Exchange, the New York Stock Exchange, or the Intercontinental Exchange, found on page 231. Smaller public companies may not be represented on a stock exchange, and instead their stock is normally traded over the counter, or OTC for short. Again, that's Baker & Baker, page 231. Presently in the United States, stock exchange is overseen by the Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SEC, according to Baker & Baker on page 231. The SEC's mission is to, quote, protect investors, maintain fair ordering and efficient markers, and facilitate capital information, found on page 231. Furthermore, the SEC oversees the key participants in the security world with the goal of promoting the release of important market-related information to maintain fairness and protect against fraud, found on page 232. You may all remember the extremely important and televised case in 2003. The SEC, according to the SEC's website, filed charges against Martha Stewart for illegal insider trading. The case with Martha Stewart is an excellent example of the mission of the SEC. Stephen M. Cutler, the SEC's Director of Enforcement, said, "It is fundamentally unfair for someone to have an edge on the market just because she has a stockbroker who is willing to break the rules and give her an illegal tip. It's worse still when the individual engaging in the insider trading is the chairman and CEO of a public company." That was reported in 2003. Mr. Cutler's statement provides us with a clear reasoning behind the importance of the government agency overseeing the stock exchange and the justification behind needing such accountability. From a biblical perspective, 1 Timothy 6:10 of the ESV says, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs." I believe it is the love for money and lack of accountability that leads to unethical behaviors and disobedience of the law. Martha Stewart is not the first or the last to let the love of worldly things dictate behavior. However, it is important that we discuss moral and ethical behavior as it pertains to the law and to the Bible so that we are strong enough to avoid these mistakes. Thank you very much.